Hello everyone, welcome to this session on MATLAB. We'll cover the second part of basics in this session in next 1 hour. So I am Saurabh. Uh, Here's my introduction. So I volunteered for this session organized by ANC, covering some more of the basics of MATLAB. I was previously BTech MTech dual degree student here at IIT Kanpur in Department of Electrical Engineering for the batch 2014 to 2019. And currently I'm a PhD student in SPCom in Department of EE at ITK, joined in 2020. So feel free to get in touch with me via ANC Council in case of any need. So let's start. So here are the topics I'll cover. We'll start with basic philosophy behind MATLAB, and then we'll cover cells, and we'll see conditional statements. So we'll see four subtopics in that: if if and if else and if and switch cases. Then we'll move towards loops. So in the loops we'll see for loops, while loops, uh, and the inside a loop we have continue and break statements, and then afterward we move towards functions and structures. So let us quickly start for basic philosophy. So how we all started with MATLAB. So we, like in my case, I got some project, and then uh, we installed MATLAB and started with it. So some basic additions and multiplications, and then as the need for the that particular project, we searched on Google about that particular topic. So suppose we need a loop. So it didn't go like you need to have a session on loop, but just Google about it and you will know the basic scripts and all those things. So then you can direct use that. So why is this session? So like this session helps you in getting introduced to some of the very basic things. So you will know about what to Google. So if you have a particular kind of need, you don't need to remember scripts for all these things. You can, like, you have to use Google, and you will Google directs you towards the MATLAB official website, and then you can get the scripts from there also. But this lesson will help you in getting familiar with the uh, what are the most basic things available there. That's all. So it won't help you beyond that. Let us start with cell. So what is a cell? Like, you have previously been familiar with what is a matrix. So let me first write a matrix. Matrix A equal to some matrix 1 comma 2 colon 3 comma 4. So this is a matrix, and like we are all familiar, we all must be familiar with the matrix. So it is a numerical, like it's a mathematical entity. So you can multiply the matrices, you can add the matrices, you can subtract matrices. But now let's store the same data in a cell. So we have a cell B, which stores the same data 1 comma 2 colon 3 comma 4. So now B is a cell, and it is a 2 cross 2 cell. So it has four spaces in it, and in each space it has stored one vector. So uh, like A itself is a matrix, but B is a collection of matrices, four matrices. So first like we can access each of matrices. So B and script wise, for matrices we use square brackets. For cells we use curly braces. So how to access the first 1 comma 1 element of cell B? So let's see this. B curly 1 comma 1 curly close. So if we enter after this, we get the answer 1. So it means that 1 is stored in the first 1 comma 1 in cell B. So now let's create another cell C, which has uh, stored 1 comma 2 in first cell, and some other string in second cell 1, and then some a bigger matrix in third. So 1 2 3 4, and in fourth it can have a cell itself. So let's store B here. B is a cell. So now we have a 1 cross 4 cell, and it has first element C1, which is a vector. It has second element C2, which is a string, and it has third element C3, which is matrix, 2 cross 2 matrix, and it has third element, a fourth element C4, which itself is a cell. So here we can see, so we can store anything inside a cell, and this is how we can access it. So now we have got comfortable with how to store in a cell and how to access an element of a cell. So now store something else. Let me store my name, roll number, and yeah, department. So suppose I am creating a cell, capital S equal to my name, my roll number, and my department. So it has a, it is 1 cross 3 cell, and it has stored 3 elements. So we can access the elements of the cell as S curly 1 and S curly 2 and S curly 3. So here we can see a cell is just a storage mechanism. We can't do mathematical operations on it like matrices. So yeah, if we want to store a set of data collectively, and just for storing, not for mathematical operation, then we use cells. And we can store a cell inside a cell, anything inside a cell, and then we can access it. So now we'll see one particular case when a cell contains only numerals, only numbers or matrices. So let's clear the screen, and let's store in a cell A. Let's store only numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's a cell. So how to convert the cell into a matrix? So there is a standard function cell to mat uh, of this A, and we store it in B. So we have this matrix B now. So this is how we convert a cell into a matrix, and then we can do all the matrix operation if needed. Another way to access elements of cell is, suppose we want to access a particular row, like first row of cell A. So we can use this script. So 1 comma colon, it will give us first row of cell A. Similarly, if we do 2, it will give all element of second row. If you want to store, like if you want to access and store it as another cell, then we have to use a small bracket. So if we do this, we get another cell which consists of first row of cell A. If we do this second, we get second row. If we do this, we get first column. Similarly, second column and third column. So yeah, this is all I have to cover in cells. We know how to store it, we know how to access it, and yeah, we know how to convert a cell into a matrix. Let us start with conditional statements. We'll first see if. So let us store a value 0 in A. Now we want to perform, we want to store 3 in C if A is equal to 0. So we'll write it like this. If A equal to 0, store 3 in C end. So now let's see if A is 0. So we can see that A is 0. So this condition is valid. This condition is true. So it will store 3 in C. So yeah, C is stored in like 3 is stored in C. Now let's convert A to 1. And we'll do same operation. We'll try to store 4 in D. Uh, So we have if a is equal to 0, store 4 in D int. So it won't do anything. It won't do anything because this condition a is equal to 0 is not true. So this is introduction to if. Now we'll move towards if else. Let's clear the screen. Clear. It clears the workspace here. Workspace stores any variable you have created and clears all of them. So now we'll see clear remove the every variable from workspace. Now we'll see CLC and it clears command window. So yeah, let's move towards if else. Uh, if else is a way to perform a particular operation when a particular condition is true and perform another when that is not true. So suppose we have a equal to 0 and we want to store 3 in C when a is 0 and 4 in D otherwise. So we will write it like this. If a equal to 0, C equal to 3, else D equal to 4. End. So what it will do? So we can see here clearly it will perform first operation because a is actually 0. So this condition is valid. So it will perform first operation under if. So let's see. Yeah. So it stored 3 in C and didn't do anything to second state. Now if we convert now let's convert a to 1. So a is equal to 1. Now we'll do the same operations. And here you can see if we have a statement if a is equal to 0, C is 3, else D set 4 in D and int. So we can see a is 1, so this condition is not valid. So it will perform operation written here D equal to 4. Let's see. Yeah. So we can see here D equal to 4. So yeah, this is all about if else. So what it does, it performs first operation when condition is valid, otherwise it performs second operation. Yeah, so let's move now. Again we'll clear workspace and then we'll clear screen and let's move towards if else if. So we want something like this. Uh, let's store a equal to again 1, a equal to 1, and if we have condition like this, if a equal to 1, store 1 in B1, else if a equal to 2, store 2 in B2, else store 0 in C. What it will do? So it will check if a is equal to 1. So we can see actually a is equal to 1. So it will perform the first operation mentioned here, b1 equal to 1. Let's see. Yeah, b1 equal to 1. Now let us convert a to 2. A equal to, we have set a equal to 2 and we will do the this if else operation again. Let's see what it does. What it should do, so here we can see a is set to 2. Work in C in workspace also. A is set to 2. Name of variable with name a has value 2. So now if we'll do this steps, if else if these 5 statements, what it will do, it should a is set to 2, so this is valid now. So it should store 2 in B2. Let's see. Yeah, so B2 is stored in 2. Now set a to something else other than 1 or 2. So let's set a equal to 10 and let's perform the same set of operations again. We can see here a is equal to 1. This condition is not valid, so it won't do this. This is also not valid, so it won't do this also. Now it will go to else. So else contains anything else. So it for any other value of a, it will do this. It will store 0 into C. So let's enter. So it is stored 0 in C, and this part is over. So we can see if else if statement. it performs one particular operation, otherwise it checks about second operation, second condition, and then it performs second. If both is not valid, then it goes to else. If there is no else, it won't do anything. So this about else if. Now we'll move towards switch cases. So let's clear the screen. uh, Switch cases. So uh, it is a longer script. So suppose we have a equal to 1. What it does, switch cases, so the code goes like this. We write switch and what to switch. So we have variable a for switching, and then uh, depending on value of a, so case 1, print like we have this command in MATLAB, display disp spelling of 1, case 2, display 2, case 3, display something else like MATLAB. So and case 4, display session. Case 5, store 100 in Z and int. So we have this script. What it does? So switch a. It means a is our condition, variable of condition, and if value of a is 1, that is case 1, then it will perform this operation. If value of a is 2, it will perform this operation. If value of a is 3, it will perform this particular operation. If value of a is 4, it will perform this particular operation. If value of a is 5, it will perform this particular operation. So let's see what it does. So we know that value of a is 1. So it will perform case 1 operation. So it should display 1. Let's see. Yeah, it displays 1 here. Now let's change value of a to 2. A equal to 2. What it should do, let's rewrite the whole code again. So I'm using Control C and Control V to rewrite the whole thing again. And what it should do, now a value of a is 2. So it should perform this operation, display 2. So let's see. Yeah, it write 2 here. Uh, Now let's change value of a to 3 and perform this operation again. Control C, Control V, and it should display MATLAB. So let's see. Yeah, it writes MATLAB here. Now let's set value of a to 4 and Control V. It should display session because value of a is 4. So in this case 4, and it should display session. Yeah, it displays session here. Now let's set value of a to 5 and it should assign 100 to Z. So Control C, Control V. Yeah, Z is set to 100. So switch case is a more generalized version of else if. So in else if we have to write every time else if, and we have to put different conditions. In switch cases, uh, uh, we have long list of cases, and we can do whatever we need in that particular case. So let's clear the screen. And so there is small homework for you to try. Write a program which displays your name in case when value of a particular variable a is 1. which displays your roll number when a value of particular variable a is 2, and it displays your department when value of that particular variable is 3. So try to write that code and see where you get stuck. Let us start with loops. We'll first see for loop. So what a loop does? A loop performs of an operation for several iterations, for several times. Like if we previously saw conditional statements, so conditional statements performs just once. If a condition is valid, it does. If it is not valid, it won't do, and it proceeds towards next step. But in loop, it performs a particular operation several times. So let's see. Suppose we want to print all the numbers between 1 to 10. So will start with for loop. So what it does, suppose the script goes like this. For we have a variable I, it takes value from 1 to 10. So we can directly write 1 to 10, and then uh, we just want to display the number between every number between 1 to 10. So let's use the disp display I and end. What it is expected to do? It is expected to display every number between 1 to 10. Let's see. Yeah, so it does it. So see, this with this simple code, we can display 10 numbers in one shot. So uh, let's see different parts of for loop. So we have this for, it is always here for, and then we have a particular variable here which takes different values one by one from this number. So if we have 1 to 10 here, so it takes each number between 1 to 10, and then it does a particular operation here for that particular value of I in that iteration, and then we have end statement. So it start with I equal to 1 and then displays I, and then it goes again towards next value of I, and then it displays I equal to 2, and then till the last value of I, which is 10. Now suppose we want to display each even number between 1 and 10. So let's write for again we have variable I equal to we want even number. So let's start with first even number is 2, so we start with 2. Now here we had written 1 colon 10, so it contains each number between 1 to 10. We want a gap of 2 here, so we'll write 2 colon 2 and then up to 10. So it picks up numbers between 2 to 10 including 2 and 10 with interval of 2. So it will take I equal to 2, then 4, then 6, and so on. And let's again do the same operation, display I and in. What it is expected to do, it will take value of I equal to 2, and then it will display I. So we'll see printed 2 in the screen, then it will go to next value of I, which is 4, and then so on. So let's see. Yeah, it does that. So in for loop we assign value of a variable of that, but that loop a priori in the statement after for, and it takes different value of that variable and does a particular operation mentioned inside the loop. And then don't forget to do end here, otherwise it will show error. Like let's try without end. Sometimes we actually forget it, so if we do only this, it is stuck there, it won't end. So we have to write end here, and then it performs operation. And now let's move towards while loop. So let's clear screen and command window, and we'll see while loop here. So how to do so what does while like how while works? So let's first write while. This start of while statement, it always starts with this while. Okay, so we can't start with while. We need a like we need some variable which like while checks value of a variable. So suppose a equal to 0. Now we'll put a condition on a while a is less than suppose less than equal to 10. So what it will do, it will perform a operation below till when, till value of a is less than 10. So what is current value of a? It is 0. So it will definitely perform the operation below. Let's write it. Uh, what is operation? Let's again do display. And display what? Display a. So what it will do? It will check if a is less than 10, a is 0. So it is valid. So it will display 0. What next? So uh, if we'll end here, we'll see that it will continue checking a equal to 0. And let's do end here and see what happens. So it will continue printing 0, and we have to end with control C. So see here how many zeros are printed. We did some mistakes, so we are getting this a lot of zeros. It is not ending the loop actually. Let's again assign value of, like, a is already 0, so let's again rewrite the whole loop. While a is less than equal to 10, display a. And we want to avoid that infinite loop. Uh, what was the reason for that infinite loop? Think over it. So let me tell you. So we have condition a is less than 10, and if we'll see a is always 0, so this condition is always valid, so it continue performing this operation again and again and again. So how to ensure that this condition get falsified sometimes, so that loop ends? So we have to update the value of a in some way. To, like, we have to set a equal to something like a plus 3, so it will update value of a. And uh, then whenever it crosses 10, it will stop the loop that at that time. So let's end here, and we see it increase, a is set to 0 and then increases it by 3 and then 3 till it crosses 10. When a becomes 12, after 9 it will become 12. So when a becomes 12, this is not valid, so it won't do these operations and the loop is ended. So see here, value of a is 12, and it performed operations, display operation till value of a is less than 10, and after that the loop ended. So never forget to write this update rule inside a while loop. If you forget to write update rule about the variable of condition, it is more likely, it is very likely to get stuck into a infinite loop. And then there is only, like, we use this command ct control C. So you have to press control in your keyboard and then C, control and C. Let's see, continue inside a loop. So we have a for loop for I equal to 1 at enter of 1 to 10. And if we have a simple display, what it does, it will display value of I int. What it will do if we have continue inside it. So let's see, for uh, I equal to 1 at interval 1 or to 10, uh, continue is always inside a condition. So if like reminder of I on dividing by 2 is 0, so this is a reminder function. If you are not familiar with it, it outputs reminder on dividing. So if we divide I by 2, what is the reminder? If that is 0, uh, if that is equal to 0, uh, let's make it continue, ending this if statement, and then display I int. So see, if reminder is 0, it will continue. It means it will go to the next loop. It won't do anything. It will continue to next iteration of the loop. It will skip these things. So what continue does, if this condition is valid, it won't come here. It will directly go to the next iteration of the loop, increasing value of I by 1. So if we started with I equal to 1, it checks if it is 0. this is not 0 for I equal to 1, so it won't continue, and so it will display 1. Now it will go to next iteration of loop, I equal to 2, remainder is 0, it will continue. So without coming here, it will directly go to the next iteration of loop and set I equal to 3. And then it displays 3 and it won't display 4 and so on, and it displays till 9. So this is continue. Now let's see how break works. So let's pick up the same statement, I equal to 1 to 1 at interval 1 to 10. uh, Suppose if we set I equal to 5, if I goes 5 somewhere, you just break it, ending if statement, and then display value of I end. So see here, after like it started with I equal to 1, this is not valid, so it displays 1. It then it goes to next iteration, it's I is equal to 2. Again this is not valid, it displays 2, and so on. If when I, as soon as I become 5, on increasing, sometime I will become 5, after 4 I is 5, so this is valid, so it will break. What is break? So after this it won't do anything, it simply get out of this loop. So it once this break is reached, it will break off the out of the loop. It won't perform any operation after that. As soon as I is 5, the loop is break, and you came out of loop and the operation ended. So we see these two operations. Continue skips that particular iteration of the loop and goes towards next iteration, while break breaks the loop, and it gives immediate to you to the next, like whatever remaining thing. So here we have command window, so it gives you output after break, and give you option to perform other operations in via window. Now we will see functions. So what does a function do? When you have to perform a particular operation repetitively, you have to use functions. So suppose we want to multiply, let's write a simple function to multiply two numbers. So you have to click here on this new, and there is an option function. So you click on function, and then you see editor windows opens up, and then you see this is the name of the function. So suppose we want to add multiply two numbers, so let's name it like multi or mult, and then you have first input argument here. So let's set first input to be a, and then second input to be b, and we want output as multiplication of these two. So like this a priori set value. So let's suppose we want to output at c, so we write output here c. So see, the first line is very important. We have your function here, then you have whatever output is written here, and then you have the name of function here, and then you have input of the function here. So let's try to multiply these two numbers. So let's c is output, and c, we want c as multiplication of these two things, a into b. Let's put a colon here, yeah, and let's save it, control s. So we can do any, like we can use this save, click on save, and then we have mult function, and so mult it is here somewhere here, yeah, see this mult is set. So mult, let's take input as 3, 4. What it will do, it should output multiplication of 3 and 4. So it is 12, yeah. Let's try some other number, 5, 6. So it outputs 30. Suppose we want to store the output of this function into some variable, like we want to store it in some variable x. So we'll write it like x equal to mult 1, 2. And then we'll get x equal to 2. Now we need not to have just one output, we can have multiple outputs inside a function. So suppose we want to write another function, let's go to the command window, a new function, and we want to write a function which does both operations, so multiplication and addition. So let's name it like add underscore mult, and we have input one, first input a, second input b, and we want to, let's remove these things. We want output as c and d. Output argument one is C and other output is D. So we want output to be some multiplication and addition. So let's set C equal to addition, A plus B, and D equal to multiplication, A star B. Let's save it. Yeah. We have this function add a double d mult here, add.m file, and if we'll do this, let's store it, output of these two in variables x and y. Xy equal to add mult, let's say right 4 5. So what it should store in x and y, so let's see the function. What it store in first argument, it adds the two inputs, and what it does to second argument, it multiplies the two inputs. So it should store 9 in x and 20 in y. Let's see. Yeah. So x is 9 and y is 20. So we can perform any operation inside a function. So a function is just a way to avoid repetitive operations. So now whenever we need to use these two operations, we can directly use the add mult function. So suppose we want to add mult some like 200 and 100. What should output be? 300 should be stored in x, and 20,000 should be stored in y. Let's see. Yeah, so it is valid. So yeah, so let's again go to the function and understand it properly. So what all it has? It has the function function written here. Then we have first output argument, second output argument. We can have any number of output arguments, and so like we can have e here, which is difference of the two. E is equal to, or power. We can use a to the power b. Anything. So we can have any number of output arguments here. We can have any number of input arguments here, and we can have corresponding operations here. So whatever you how like if you want C to be addition of a and b, you can write it like this. If you want it to be subtraction, you can write it like a minus b, and you can do any operation inside a function. This is a generic function, and it is used in performing repetitive operations in one shot. So if you write a function, you can do you just need to call that function, and you can do all the operations mentioned inside a function. This general idea of function. One more, let's see one more function which. So we are familiar with the mathematical idea of function, fx. So what fx does? It takes an input and it gives an output. So we have similar function in MATLAB also. Let's clear the screen and go towards mathematical functions. It won't be very useful. Mathematical functions in MATLAB are used primarily when you are using integration inside a MATLAB code. So otherwise you won't be using it, but because we are learning functions, so let me introduce you to that. So function f, which like which is where variable is x. So f at the rate of x. So what it means, like we are defining a function x where variable is x, and what operations we want like x square we want to define. So x square, see, and it now we have a function fx, function handle, and output, it should output x square as output. So if we write f of 2, it will give 4. If we write f of 5, what it will give? It should give 25. Yeah. So this is a mathematical function. It is mostly useful while integrating. Otherwise I haven't seen much use of function handle. We can have multivariable functions also. So we can have z equal to at the rate of xy, x times y. So if you'll write g of 4 comma 5, it will output multiplication of the two and so on. We can have let's see if it works in vector form also. X plus y, x star y. Now if we'll give input g4 5, it gives first as 9, first element as 9, second element as 20. So we can define similarly mathematical functions also. So x is the first input, y is the second input, and after that we write output, whatever is output. So these are different way of defining function handle. This is mostly used mathematically and while integrating. Otherwise, the most commonly we write functions like this only in script income. Yeah. Now we'll move towards the next part of the session. Now we will see structures. So we have already seen in the first part of this today's session cells, and we are familiar with the matrices. Now we'll see a different way of storing any data, which is in the form of structures. Suppose we have the simple data. A is equal to uh, like a is equal to 4. So it's a number, and it's a particular, like, it's an integer. We can have b equal to uh, some some matrix or vector 3 comma 4, or we can have any such object. But suppose we want to store a few things together. So how to do that? So we had cells where we stored in the form of matrices. In the structures we can store it in any way. Suppose so we want to store, a name and roll number of particular student together. So we write it like this: student 1 dot name equal to some name, Ramesh. We always have to use this braces for columns for. So we have got created a structure whose element is name, and name is Ramesh, and suppose we want to store roll number of the same student. We can write it like student 1 dot roll number, and it could be it can be any number like 2 0 3 4 5 7, whatever. So now it has two fields. It is a structure with two fields. First field is name, which is Ramesh, and second field is roll number, which is any number. So we can add any field to it, and we how to access this field. So it is as simple as storing it into it. So we can write it like student1 dot name, and we get the output as Ramesh. If we write student1 dot roll number, we'll get roll number. And suppose we have some other student, student2 dot name equal to Suresh. So it is another structure, and it has stored Suresh in it, and his roll number is so yeah. So a structure is a way to store multiple data together. So this is what a structure is, and this is how we access it. So if you want to store several things like name, roll number, department, branch, like branch and department are same. Name, roll number, department, and interests, and hometown, etc. all together. So then you can use structures, and this is how you access it. Okay, thank you.